Serious tension is brewing in West Africa as Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has placed the country's military forces on red alert following Burkina Faso's refusal to release 11 Nigerian soldiers and a fighter jet currently being held on their territory. This isn't just another diplomatic hiccup between neighboring nations, this is a full-blown crisis that threatens Nigeria's sovereignty and could potentially reshape the entire power dynamic across the region. The stakes are incredibly high right now, and both countries seem to be digging in their heels, neither willing to back down from their positions. What we're witnessing here could be the beginning of something much larger than just a dispute over detained military personnel. Let me walk you through exactly how this whole situation unfolded because the details really matter here. A Nigerian Air Force C-130 transport aircraft was conducting what should have been a completely routine flight when things took an unexpected turn. The aircraft experienced significant technical difficulties while in the air, the kind of problems that pilots can't just ignore or try to push through. Faced with a potential emergency, the crew had no choice but to make an unscheduled landing in Bobo Dioulasso, a major city in Burkina Faso. This wasn't some planned military operation or strategic deployment. It was purely an emergency response to keep the aircraft and everyone on board safe. The 11 Nigerian military personnel aboard weren't on any combat mission. They were simply regular personnel being transported from one location to another as part of standard military operations. Here's where everything went sideways, though. Instead of treating this as the emergency situation it was, the Burkinabe military immediately took a hostile stance. They accused Nigeria of deliberately violating their airspace without obtaining proper authorization or clearance beforehand. Now you might be thinking this sounds like an overreaction to what was clearly an emergency landing, but airspace violations are treated as extremely serious matters in international relations, particularly in a region that's already experiencing significant political turbulence. The Burkinabe authorities didn't just allow the Nigerian crew to fix their technical issues and continue on their way, they detained all 11 soldiers and grounded the aircraft indefinitely. The plane and its crew have essentially been held hostage ever since, and Burkina Faso has shown no signs of willingness to release them without extracting some kind of political concession. To really understand why Burkina Faso is taking such a hardline approach, you need to look at the broader political transformation that's been sweeping through the Sahel region. Burkina Faso, along with Mali and Niger, has undergone military coups that have fundamentally altered their relationships with other West African nations. These three countries have deliberately distanced themselves from ECOWAS, the economic community of West African states, which has traditionally been the dominant regional bloc and is effectively led by Nigeria as the region's powerhouse. Instead of remaining within ECOWAS, these coup-led governments have formed their own alliance called the AES, the Alliance of Sahel States. This new bloc represents a direct challenge to the established regional order, and these countries have made it abundantly clear that they're deeply suspicious of what they view as foreign interference in their internal affairs. The timing of this incident makes everything even more complicated and politically charged. Just days before the Nigerian aircraft was detained, Nigeria had dispatched military assistance to the Benin Republic in response to an attempted coup there. Nigeria moved quickly to support the legitimate government in Benin, sending troops and resources to help maintain stability. But this action didn't go unnoticed by countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. From their perspective, Nigeria's intervention in Benin looked like an attempt to extend Nigerian military influence throughout the region and potentially interfere in the affairs of sovereign nations. They're watching Nigeria's moves very carefully and interpreting them through a lens of suspicion and hostility toward what they see as ECOWAS imperialism. The current status of the detained soldiers remains somewhat unclear, with conflicting reports emerging from different sources. Some media outlets have suggested that the soldiers have been released and are on their way back to Nigeria, while others insist they're still being held, and that negotiations are ongoing but haven't yielded any concrete results yet. What we know for certain is that the Nigerian government has been extremely vocal about this situation, and President Tinubu has made it crystal clear that he views this as a matter of national sovereignty that cannot be compromised. He stated in no uncertain terms that Nigeria will not simply stand by passively while its military personnel are held without just cause by another nation. This is a red line issue for the Nigerian government, and they're treating it with the utmost seriousness. The most significant development that really demonstrates how seriously Nigeria is taking this crisis is President Tinubu's decision to place the entire Nigerian military on red alert status. This is an official declaration that puts all military forces on standby and ready for immediate action if the situation deteriorates further. It's not just symbolic posturing, it's a genuine signal that Nigeria is prepared to take more aggressive action if diplomatic efforts fail to secure the release of its personnel and aircraft. Given the volatile security situation throughout the Sahel region, which has been destabilized by multiple coups and the rise of militant groups, this kind of military escalation could very quickly spiral into something much more dangerous for everyone involved. Burkina Faso isn't showing any signs of backing down either, which is what makes this standoff so concerning. Their government has maintained its position that the Nigerian aircraft violated their airspace without authorization, and they're standing firm on that accusation. They've also ramped up their own security measures since the incident occurred, making sure that no other aircraft enter their territory without proper clearance. With Nigeria and Burkina Faso now finding themselves on opposite sides of this new regional divide, with fundamentally different visions for West Africa's political future, the tension between them is only going to intensify unless someone finds a way to de-escalate. What's really at stake here goes far beyond just 11 soldiers and one aircraft. This is fundamentally about how power and influence are distributed across West Africa and how military force is being used as a tool to shape regional politics. We've already witnessed how military coups have completely upended the political landscape in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. These countries are actively trying to assert their independence from what they perceive as domination by Nigeria and ECOWAS, and they're doing it in ways that directly challenge the established regional order that's existed for decades. This isn't just about sovereignty in an abstract sense, it's about whether Nigeria can continue to play the role of regional hegemon that it's traditionally occupied. The diplomatic implications of this crisis are absolutely massive and could reverberate throughout the region for years to come. This incident is a clear signal that Nigeria's dominant influence in West Africa is being seriously challenged in ways that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. If these tensions aren't resolved peacefully and quickly, we could see significant disruptions to trade relationships, the breakdown of military cooperation agreements, and even restrictions on the movement of people across borders. The free flow of goods and people across West Africa has always been one of ECOWAS's major achievements, but if Nigeria and Burkina Faso can't find common ground, that entire framework could be at risk. The region simply cannot afford another major conflict right now when it's already dealing with terrorism, poverty, and political instability. The Nigerian government is pushing as hard as it can through diplomatic channels to secure the release of its personnel and the return of the aircraft, but progress has been frustratingly slow. Both governments are holding firm to their positions, and neither seems willing to make the first move toward compromise. While negotiations continue behind the scenes, the situation remains highly unpredictable and could change dramatically at any moment. The fact that Nigeria has its military on red alert tells you everything you need to know about how the government views the severity of this crisis. If there's one principle that Nigerian leaders of all political stripes agree on, it's that the country's sovereignty is non-negotiable and cannot be undermined by any foreign power.